My name is Gwen Mayes, and I'm a resident of Annapolis, Maryland, outside of Washington, D.C. I have participated in two types of clinical trial registries. One is an observational study performed on exercise tolerance in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And the second, I have recently enrolled in the SHARE Registry Part 2 study, which is a bioregistry for genetic biomarkers and other pertinent information about hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I decided to participate in the observational study on HCM because I wanted to help find an answer on the exercise tolerant and what are some of the lifestyle activities that I could participate in. When I was diagnosed in the late 1980s, I was simply told, don't push yourself. And I had earthly no idea what that meant. How long could I walk? Could I do an aerobics class, a step class, etc.? And over time, I know there was a lot of clinical research that was being done, but still very little known about competitive sports and how long you can walk, can you swim? And I took up sailing at 60. And so I wanted to know if I was doing any damage to my heart condition at the time. So that's why I participated in that study. The second was the SHARE registry, is because I have a genetic mutation in YBPC3, and this is a study that will collect blood tests as well as MRI records, and I wanted again to help further the knowledge base for new research and treatment for HCM. I found out about the study on exercise tolerance for HCM patients at an HCMA annual meeting in Boston. It's probably been 6 or 7 years ago. It was conducted at Yale University, and I took information and enrolled, and still am a long time, once a year participant in that study for data collection. The second, which is the SHARE registry, the bioregistry, I learned about while I was having a visit for my mavacamten adjustment under the REMS program at a Centers of Excellence, University of Pennsylvania, and they are a co-investigator for the SHARE registry study. And it was presented to me and the value being in the registry, and I consented. Certainly before I was younger, I had some concerns about a clinical trial for privacy matters. And, having been diagnosed with HCM so long ago, there definitely was concern about my insurance. I was denied insurance over and over again. Before the Affordable Care Act, or what many call the Obamacare Act, then certainly genetic information and wasn't really that protected, and you could be denied insurance with a pre-existing condition. So anything that was external could be threatening to you. But otherwise, the two that I mentioned, the observational study and the SHARE bioregistry, I really have not had any concerns now. I feel there's safeguards in place, and I understand the informed consent process. I have over time researched clinical trials in HCM, and usually I would just directly go to clinicaltrials.gov. Having been a former federal employee in the Department of Health and Human Services, I relied upon those resources to see what clinical trials were out there. At the end of the day, though, the two studies or registries that I've been involved in have really been presented to me, or information at one was a conference and another was on a routine medical exam. My experience with an observational study, which was really not quite a clinical trial, but I will say that the data collection became much more extensive than I originally thought. And a lot of times I would fill out online questionnaires about my exercise, everything from whether I did online video games to boxing matches to how far I walked and how often I did. It was extraordinarily detailed. And quite frankly, I felt like there was a lot of guessing involved in it. And some of this I felt bad about. It's like I should be more exact, but there was just too many questions and too much memory recall to have a precision to it. But you just do the best you can with it, right? I most definitely would participate in another clinical trial or a research study, observational study, a protocol, survey, etc. I have benefited from the knowledge that others have provided, and so I want to do my part in furthering the science and knowledge of HCM treatment. I'll also mention as a patient on a myosin inhibitor, mavacamten Camzyos, now for almost 2 years. I participate in the REMS program, which can feel like a clinical trial. So, quite a few echocardiograms, a lot of traveling, a lot of understanding the dynamics and monitoring the results myself. My ejection fraction did drop after about a year to 49%. So, the drug had to be held, and then learning again the algorithm for dosing. So, there are lots of ways to participate, and I would definitely continue to do that. I would certainly tell someone who is considering entering a clinical trial to do their research and to understand either online, ask as many questions as possible about the information, how it will be stored, how it will be held private. Will you have access to the data? If so, how? How long will the data be collected? And what are the circumstances under which you can withdraw from the trial? I think one of the things that patients need to realize and to be upfront about is, were patients included in the design of the trial? Were they asked about their preferences, their values, etc.? So often patients enter into clinical trials and there is not one patient who was ever involved in the design of it. So what might be curious to a researcher is of marginal value to a patient, or comes in a format that is not doable for a patient or useful for a patient. So understanding and asking those tough and sort of meaty questions is really the most important thing, so that you feel comfortable about participating, and then have access to the information and where you go for further information.